The film begins by showing a man named Byung-do, who is a middle-class gangster currently working for a local mafia organization. Although Byung-do is a gangster, he deeply loves his mother and his two younger siblings. Within the gangster organization, Byung-do has several subordinates under him, including a man named Jong-soo, who is his trusted confidant. At that moment, they are going through tough times financially after a string of bad business luck. They are even struggling to meet their daily needs, but their brotherly bond keeps them together through the tough times. After successfully collecting a debt from a client, Byung-do then meets directly with his boss named Sung-chul to hand over the money. Sung-chul then gives a small portion of the money to Byung-do and his subordinates. However, Byung-do pleads with him to share a little more because his subordinates are currently struggling to survive. Additionally, he also needs a lot of money for his own family who are about to be evicted from their home. However, this seems to only anger his boss even more, as his boss doesn't really care about his subordinates and is hoarding the collected money for himself. Byung-do then meets with the leader of the organization, President Wang. At that moment, President Wang praises Byung-do's performance in his recent work and invites Sung-chul to have a drink together. Unlike Sung-chul, President Wang seems more caring towards his subordinates, where he even suggests to Sung-chul to let Byung-do manage the new gambling room they are planning to open, after learning that Byung-do and his subordinates are struggling. As they are enjoying their time, President Wang receives a call from a longtime prosecutor who has been bothering him. Because of this, he asks Sung-chul to get rid of him. However, Sung-chul doesn't dare to make a trouble with prosecutor, so he politely refuses. At that moment, Byung-do still doesn't dare to oppose his direct superior, so he remains silent. The next day, they celebrate the opening of the new gambling room, and they are somewhat relieved because now they have some extra income to support their families. After that, Byung-do's childhood friend named Min-ho suddenly reappears, and they go to the nearest cafe to meet each other. During their conversation, Min-ho turns out to be a film director now, and his current project is a gangster film. To enhance the authenticity of his film, Min-ho interviews Byung-do, whom he considers a real gangster. Suddenly, Byung-do receives a call where a rival gang is attacking their new gambling room. He then rushes back, but it's too late, as they find the place already destroyed and the attackers have left. Knowing this, Sung-chul decided to declare war and instructs Byung-do to gather their forces. However, on the way, Byung-do is ambushed by their rival gang towards the meeting point. Despite being outnumbered, he and Jong-soo fight side by side and resist. Sung-chul and his reinforcements arrive late, but manage to control the situation. In the midst of the chaos, Sung-chul accidentally stabbed one of the enemies to death. This will cause problem because fighting each other is common in the gangster world, but killing is a very serious matter as it could involve the police. President Wang then assessed the situation between Sung-chul and Byung-do, where Sung-chul decided to pay compensation to the rival gang and decided that Young Peel, his subordinate of the same rank as Byung-do, would go to jail in his place. Sung-chul also decided to give Young Peel's subordinates control over the new gambling room as a reward for protecting him. This decision disappointed Byung-do as he lost a much-needed source of income, and he pleaded with Sung-chul to reconsider his decision, but Sung-chul remained firm, disappointing him. After that, Byung-do escorted President Wang home after completing his meeting with the prosecutor named Park, the person who had been bothering him for some time. Park then talked about his issues with Byung-do and shared wisdom with him, making them slightly closer. On the way home, Byung-do realized that he couldn't continue like this because he had responsibilities to his son and family. Therefore, he needed a way to advance his career, so he returned to President Wang's house and took on the task of eliminating the prosecutor. Byung-do then discussed Jong-soo as his most trusted person. Despite the risks, Jong-soo trusted Byung-do's decision and followed his plan. The next day, Min-ho invited Byung-do to an elementary school reunion, where Min-ho planned to reunite Byung-do with his former school girlfriend, Hyunju. At that moment, Byung-do found that Hyunju still had an interest in him and tried to rekindle their old relationship. As they enjoyed their time together, Jong-soo then called him, after he had gathered enough information and was ready to execute their plan. So, they began to follow the prosecutor and wait for the right moment. Although this was their first job, they executed the plan perfectly. After incapacitating the prosecutor, Byung-do received the money he hoped for, along with the respect of President Wang and a place by his side. They then swore never to speak of it to anyone so they and the organization would not be implicated. On the other hand, Sung-chul had learned about the murder and felt threatened by Byung-doo's dominance over his authority and lack of attention to the organization. So, Sung-chul called him to inquire vaguely about the matter. As promised to President Wang, Sung-chul pretended not to know about the incident. So, he planned to arrange a murder to take him down, but Byung-doo was smarter than Sung-chul thought. Back at his headquarters, Byung-doo then held a party and reveled with his subordinates. Money was no longer a problem, but another bigger issue had arrived, where Byung-doo knew that Sung-chul might come after him now, so they decided to strike first. As they prepared their plan, Byung-doo then helped Min-ho gather material for his film, where he welcomed them to his headquarters to talk with his subordinates to understand more about the gangster life. After that, Byung-doo also tried to approach Hyunju at the bookstore where she worked. Along with that day was the wedding day of Sung-chul's sibling, where Byung-doo and his subordinates planned to execute their plan there. At that moment, they acted normal and waited for the right moment. First, his subordinates kidnapped and incapacitated Young Peel. With his trusted person not there to protect him, Byung-doo then followed Sung-chul to the restroom and ended his life there. After all of those events, Byung-doo's life then turned better than before, where he got promoted and got enough money to move from his old home. Now, Byung-doo was no longer a low-level gangster, and he was more confident and tried to approach Hyunju once again. He even asked her out for a dinner date after work hours. With his promotion, Byung-doo was now trusted to handle the organization's real estate business and worked in a luxurious office. Min-ho then congratulated him as they talked more about his upcoming film. There, President Wang had a request for him, where his daughter wanted to become an actress, so he wanted Min-ho to have a role in the film. Hearing this, Min-ho gladly accepted the request. The next day, Byung-doo gave shoes to Hyunju. But, as he was about to give them, he suddenly saw Hyunju arguing with her manager, who turned out they had a relationship in the past. The manager became jealous seeing her with Byung-doo before, so the manager tried to force her back to him. Seeing that, Byung-doo tried to help her out of the situation, but the manager remained insistent and he triggered Byung-doo's gangster side, so he beat up the manager. Although Byung-doo practically defended her, his gangster tendencies made Hyunju more scared, so she didn't want to meet him again. This truly shattered his heart because Byung-doo realized that not everyone could accept his way of life. After that, he drank to let it all out and called Min-ho for help. At his lowest point, Byung-doo finally revealed to Min-ho his darkest secrets, including the attacks on Prosecutor Park and his former boss, hoping it would lighten his burden. But life goes on, and now President Wang tasked him with an important job. If he could help him force some landlords to sell their land to him, President Wang would give him a share of the huge profit from the plan worth hundreds of billions of won, where later, the land would be used to build luxury apartments, and Byung-doo would finally start making a lot of money after all those sacrifices. After that, Byung-doo and his subordinates started harassing all those landlords. Not long after, Byung-doo took Min-ho to meet President Wang. They enjoyed their time talking about the upcoming film, where President Wang's daughter would have a role as promised. The following day, Byung-doo remembering Hyunju and went to her house where he found her lying weak in her room. Apparently, she was not working anymore, so Byung-doo immediately took her to the hospital and took care of her in the following days. On the other hand, their rival gang found out about President Wang's plan and bought some land before him. Byung-doo then tried to deal with them, but instead got kidnapped. Luckily, he managed to fight back and track down the rest of them. With that, Byung-doo successfully secured all the landowners' approvals for President Wang. Feeling delighted, Byung-doo went to the filming location to check out his friend's movie. He then showed the actors how to fight like real gangsters and inspired Min-ho to promise to make a film with true gangster spirit. In the evening, Byung-doo tried his luck again and brought a bouquet of flowers for Hyunju. Upon seeing this, Hyunju began to see that despite being a gangster, Byung-doo still had a good side left. Afterward, they went on a date and enjoyed their time together. As Byung-doo escorted her home, he couldn't resist kissing her passionately. The only barrier between their relationship was Byung-doo's wild lifestyle, but he promised to leave all that behind just to be with Hyunju. Sometime later, Min-ho's movie was released. At its premiere, President Wang then congratulated and thanked him for choosing his daughter. At the same time, Byung-doo was having dinner with his family and Hyunju. After watching the premiere of the film, President Wang immediately called Byung-do and instructed him to watch the film right away because something seemed off. Quickly, Byung-do discovered that the film portrayed many events from his past, including the attack on Prosecutor Park. It turned out Min-ho used what Byung-do told him in secret. After that, Byung-do promptly confronted Min-ho about it. Apparently, the film didn't explicitly reveal their identities, but it proved that Min-ho couldn't be trusted. Byung-do then warned Min-ho about the consequences if he leaked more information. On the other hand, Jong-soo suggested eliminating Min-ho because the risk was too high. But this angered Byung-do, and Jong-soo chose to spare Min-ho's life. Sometime later, against Byung-do's orders, Jong-soo decided kidnapped Min-ho, but not to kill him, just to scare him as a warning. Meanwhile, Byung-do reported to President Wang that everything was under control because he never mentioned Min-ho's name in his story. So, they continued to celebrate the success of the luxury apartment plan. Unbeknownst to them, what Jong-soo had done had stirred something inside Min-ho. The next day, Byung-do met Hyun-ju to give her a special gift. Suddenly, the police came to arrest him. Knowing this, he barely managed to escape, leaving Hyun-ju confused. At that moment, Byung-do knew his friend had sold him out to the police, and he remained humble, met President Wang that night, and promised to rectify the situation by taking care of Min-ho and leaving the country. But it wasn't an easy task, because Min-ho's film became popular, and he had become a big figure now. Byung-do then met with Jong-soo, where he regretted not listening to his advice. Knowing this, Jong-soo was willing to help him and sort out any situation that arose. As his second-in-command, Byung-do then handed over his subordinates to Jong-soo after he left. Not long after, Byung-do began to move to kill Min-ho at a party. At that moment, Min-ho managed to escape, but Byung-do's subordinates caught him outside the building. After that, Byung-do went to where his subordinates were supposed to bring Min-ho, but upon arrival, an unknown group appeared and then attacked him. Despite being outnumbered, Byung-do fought back and managed to distance himself from the attackers but was severely injured. At that moment, Byung-do was relieved when his subordinates arrived at the scene, but out of nowhere, his subordinates suddenly stabbed him. They turned out to have betrayed and killed him, seemingly led by his most trusted right-hand man, Jong-soo. The film ended with President Wang and Min-ho discussing ideas for future films. Meanwhile, Jong-soo joined the meeting, replacing Byung-do at President Wang's side. The film ended. Moral lesson from the story: when your gangster boss doesn't give you a raise, it's probably not a good idea to take career advice from a film director. Because if you mix gang fights and film projects, you might end up getting stabbed by your best friend.